All right, so I guess I will kick it off. I expect some additional folks to join us as we go, but want to respect the time of everyone who's here. So for folks who don't know me, my name is Michael Nigello. I'm the president and CEO of the Eastern Connecticut Workforce Investment Board, or EWIB. We convene the EAMA RSP, and I think Tony is in transit, so he asked me to sort of MC this afternoon. Very excited for the presentation and question and answer session this afternoon. We continue to hear at our EAMA RSP meetings and in conversations that worker recruitment and retention continues to be kind of the main thing keeping our company members up at night. And from the when we first brought up the idea of second chance hiring, and I know Jacqueline has a different term that she uses, for that, which she can explain. But when we first kind of broached this last June, there was a lot of interest among member companies, but also a lot of desire to learn more, and specifically to learn from a fellow manufacturer that has been doing this, to really learn kind of what has worked well, what the benefits have been, what the challenges have been, and what you all should be prepared for as you pursue this. So we're very grateful that Jacqueline Gallo from Pursuit is here with us today and has agreed to kind of share her experiences. I know this is something that Pursuit has done for several years, and that she is very passionate about. So we appreciate her taking the time to be with us today. And just for kind of housekeeping, I think Jacqueline is going to start with a presentation. And if questions come up during the presentation, I would just ask that you put them in the chat. I will kind of keep track of them. And then when she's done with the presentation portion, I will do my best to get those questions that came in from the chat to her. And then after she's done, we'll sort of open it up to people who want to ask questions from there. So this is really peer-to-peer. We have not invited support partners here or anyone else. We want this to be a really free-flowing conversation among employers. And then just a heads up as well, at the end, we will have a quick survey just to get feedback on the webinar today, and then also to ask if how interested folks are in participating in the EAMA RSP second chance hiring initiative, and then we'll be following up on those with those companies that are interested. So if there are no other questions, I'll turn it over to Jacqueline.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for having me. I hope that this can be engaging and that I can help answer any questions that people have. So I do encourage you to feel free to put questions in the chat. It'll just help me be able to give relevant information, because this is obviously a pretty big topic people are interested in. I know everybody knows my name, but just for a little bit of intro background, I work for Pursuit Aerospace. I have a couple slides on what we do. I've been with the company before we merged to become Pursuit a year ago. I was with Whitcraft and been with the company since 2012. So just over 12 years, and we make aircraft engine parts. Before that, I worked for GE and also Pratt & Whitney. So I've been in a couple of larger companies. And right now my responsibility is running about half of Pursuit's operations. So we have 16 sites. And I will kind of jump in a little bit on the description of the company here. Let me just get past all the lingo stuff. So we have 16 sites. This says 2,800 employees, and we're hiring. So actually we just peaked over 3,000 in the last couple of weeks. We are located both in the US and then also internationally in Canada, Mexico, England, and Tunisia. which is the northern tip of Africa. I run the 8 sites that are in our Northeast division, which are all the sites that you can drive to from Connecticut. And it's about half of the company in terms of people and half of the sites, obviously, and also about half of the revenue. We're going to do about $1 billion in revenue this year. And so we're starting to, we're growing significantly. Just quickly, the history, I mentioned that we merged about a year ago. There were 2 companies, Whitcraft and Paradigm Precision. Interestingly, both 8 sites, both about 1,400 employees and very similar in revenue, like 350 million each. And all the same customers. And when we merged last year, we deliver about 8,000 active part numbers that we deliver to our customers. There was one part number that we both made the same. So when we merged last year, it was quite a complementary situation. And so the last year has been very busy for me. This is our organization. I report to our CEO, Doug Folsom. And there's somewhat of a small corporate staff, although we're growing. And so I can't say that as much anymore. Little bit about our products. We make everything across the engine. This is a cross section of an aircraft engine. And for those who don't know, and it's easier to say what we don't make than what we do make. There's only a few very complex rotating parts in the center of the engine that we do not make at this time, but we're always looking at acquisitions that are strategic, so we may be making those sometime in the future. And we do things in our shops that are moving metal, removing metal, and then supportive processes to help finish the products and deliver them to our customer. And when we talk about the talent pool that supports it, these are some of the areas that people will work in when we hire them out of the prison partnerships that we have. We have been involved with hiring people who were previously incarcerated since 2018. So this will be our 6th year. And the first partnership that we had was actually with Willard Cybulski, which is the prison in Enfield, men's prison in Enfield. And we were busing about a dozen men a day while incarcerated. They were approved to be released and come to work for us every day and then return at the end of their shift to prison. We have grown significantly from there, and I have a couple slides about that, but overall, we have a deep commitment to partnering and creating opportunities for people who are incarcerated or previously incarcerated. I think it's a talent pool that is underutilized and often overlooked. And we are really interested in creating meaningful career paths, so where there's skill and where there's an opportunity for people to grow and develop. Right now, just a current picture of the situation and the ways in which we partner. Across the top here, you can see the sites that we have programs where we're partnering either with halfway houses or prisons directly. And what I have here is the inception of the program and then the number of people that either are currently incarcerated or stay with us after that they get out. And also the number of people that, we don't keep everybody, although I'd love to. Some people do find other opportunities and they leave. And so the number of people that have cycled through is a bit greater. In Connecticut, it's about 10%, 10 to 15% of our workforce that we actually employ who were either previously incarcerated or currently incarcerated. And in terms of outcomes, from a social action standpoint, and I can also talk about the business side of it, but most of, like 99% of the people who work for us while they're incarcerated stay working for us for a period of time after they get released. That drops down after a year to more like 70, 75%. Still a lot higher than our attrition as it relates to people that we hire that are not previously or incarcerated. When we hire people directly off the street into roles after a year's time, right now we're experiencing something like, 60% of them stay. And we cycle through, and a lot of that is people coming into manufacturing and they're not sure that it's what they want to do, and they find something else that they want to do. But we do find that people who have incarceration in their history tend to stay a bit longer for the opportunity. The women's program that we started in 2022, which is a partnership with York Women's Facility in Connecticut and our Plainville, Connecticut site, 100% of those women still work for us after 2 years now. And I have a slide on the next slide. I have a little bit more data, but in advance of that, we just wanted to put another stat out there, which is normally, if you look at after 3 years of people being released from being incarcerated, it's pretty typical that about 50% of them end up back in prison. So the outcomes that we're having is far better than normal state. And actually, this is a little bit of those stats. So on the left side here, you can see the reincarceration rate is, or not reincarcerated is like almost 88% of people who have a job with us when they get released from prison stay out of prison. Versus on the right side, over time, you can see the normal recidivism that happens over 6, 12, 24, and 36 months. We have a particular highlight with the women's program for whatever reason. They're 100% of them have stayed over time. And again, if you look at cumulative returns over time, this is just far better for the society, and it's also far better for the company because we tend to keep these people. They're more committed to staying with the company. I just have a couple more slides, and then I'm interested if people have questions. But we offer a clean, bright, safe environment for manufacturing. I know there's sort of this old school thought that manufacturing is dirty, it's dangerous. That's not true in our case. When we hire people who are incarcerated, they have all the benefits and they are treated like any other employee. So they have a 401k, they have option to take medical, although they normally take it with the state because that's provided to them. And to answer your question in the chat, yes, people do relocate. One of the obstacles that we've found is transportation when people get out. And so we have found ourselves offering stipends for transportation for people when they get out for a period of time in order to help assist them transitioning into wherever it is that they're going to land. Also, we have partnered with halfway houses, and we make a donation to the halfway houses specifically for them to hire drivers and to have a van go to some of our facilities. And that happens now from CPA in Hartford to try to help people with the transportation obstacles when they get out. On the I think it really depends on the individual. Some of them really want to relocate, and some of them really want to be closer to where their family is. We're fortunate because we have 5 sites in Connecticut and we're spread out across the state. So if we can't accommodate where they want to live when they immediately get out of prison, we often try to accommodate closer to home and they can apply internally and move. So that's one thing that we try to do to work with them. So we and then you can read the rest of the minimum requirements, but we require a GED or a high school diploma. We do require that they have to speak, read or write basic English. They have to be willing to work on the hands. We do drug screenings. We do background checks, even though we know about their background. And we do not allow certain medications for safety reasons. Like, for example, we're not allowing people who are currently on Suboxone or methadone to come into our facility for safety reasons. But other things we allow. There are programs. We have programs for safety shoes, for clothing. We provide for food, we provide a stipend while they're incarcerated because we are paying them minimum wage. We're paying them a training wage because we're training them. And so when they get released, they are no longer being paid a training wage and they'll come up to market and the stipends will dissolve. But that's how we do the structure. In terms of what the state offers, when they're incarcerated, they're given a bagged lunch and the state will buy them clothes and shoes if the company can't provide. And then they also they'll provide them like safety glasses, safety gloves, like whatever is needed. But we sort of partner with the state on that and we kind of fill the gaps where we see, because it's not really a big expense. These are different types of jobs that we're offering: machinist roles, inspectors, FBI, and that's why I mentioned that we pay a training wage. It's an entry-level wage. Many times they do not have a background in this, but it's not necessarily the case that they don't. We have had many individuals who used to install HVAC, or they were mechanics, or they ran their own, landscaping business. So there's applicable skills that often we've been able to just like further invest in and grow. We've been in the news, all different kind of things. So if you guys are interested in finding out more, you can Google Whitcraft, not Pursuit, but Whitcraft and prison, and you'll find all kinds of different stories about people and how it's impacted their lives. And I encourage you to do that. I don't know if we'll have time to watch any of them here, but if we do at the end, I might, if we have an extra minute, I might play one of these so you can see the impact on people's lives. It's kind of a big deal. We are in a few months, in a few weeks or so, less than a few months, we will be opening manufacturing centers in York, women's facility first, then Willard Cybulski, which is a men's program, not Willard Cybulski, sorry, Robinson and Osborne men's programs. So we are partnered with halfway houses and employing people. We are partnered with prisons and employing people. We are employing people off the street who were previously incarcerated and just apply online. We give them an opportunity. And then further, we're opening manufacturing centers in the prisons with a partnership that we did with the state. And they're going to be manufacturing goods in the prison for market wages and full benefits. And we'll be, the business will be providing the raw material, and they'll be making the parts, and then we'll be taking the finished goods. So that's happening soon as well. And so we'll be able to access talent where people are greater than 2 years from their release, because one of the conditions with the work release program, which is employing people while they're incarcerated, is that they have to be less than 2 years from their sentence release. And then there's also a whole other bunch of criteria for safety reasons and not bad behavior and a whole bunch of other things that vet them. And this manufacturing center program will give us an opportunity to give access to more people. Because although we're doing a lot and it's very, I'm very passionate about it, you know, there's in the state of Connecticut, there's 10,000 people that are incarcerated and we're employing a couple hundred, you know, so it's really not, there's still a lot more talent and people who are capable that are not necessarily tapped into for these opportunities. I'm not sure if anybody has any like questions. I don't know if where people are in their journey of this, if they are trying to start this or whatever, but that's kind of what I had to present, and I'm open if people have questions beyond what was put in the chat. Happy to answer anything or bounce something off is totally fine.
One question I have, and I have a steel fabrication shop. We do a lot of work with electric boat. So we've got some DoD stuff we've got to figure out with this type of thing. Have you do you do any defense contracting? And if so, were there any hurdles you had to get over with that?
We're a federal contractor. We deliver directly to the government. We have a lot of military contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Our legal team has looked at our contracts, and one thing we don't do, well, we have a small shop that does overhaul, which requires drug testing, like random drug testing while employed, not before you hire, which we do. So we don't employ there. But our viewpoint is it's not conflicting with the contracts that we have.
Okay.
So there hasn't really been an obstacle for us with that.
Because I think that's the big problem with any of this. So many business owners don't understand it, so they just assume the worst, and I think that there is opportunity there. You had mentioned that there were 10,000 incarcerated people. Was that in the state or is that getting out of prison per year?
That's currently in the state of Connecticut.
Okay, so how many of those, do you have any idea like what
I've read stats. I haven't don't fact check this, but I've read that it's like 1 in 3 people or 1 in 4 people is previously incarcerated or currently incarcerated. So it's a big number.
It's how many people are getting out. That's the part that I'm trying to figure out. So is it
it's
of the 10,000 are 1,000 getting out a year or 5,000 getting out a year?
I don't know exactly. It's a lot. It's thousands.
Yeah.
And in the last year they released because there were changes made to post-COVID to how people were held and how long they were held. And so in the last year, it's been much higher than previous years because of the changes that they made.
Okay.
One thing that I find interesting to mention, when I started doing this, I had to do a lot of roundtables with people in the shop I was running. I had like 380 employees in the site that I started this in. And as you can imagine, people were worried about their safety. There was a lot of concerns about starting a program like this. One thing I think that people don't realize is there are often people are incarcerated. When we first started hiring, a lot of military vets, people who were drunk driving and hit somebody. There's a lot of different background stories. It's not all as scary as people think.
Right.
And then I'm not saying that there aren't scary stories like that, but for people to be willing and able to work, often there's a lot of rehabilitation and programs that they do while they're in prison, and when they get out, they're ready. Not everybody wants to work. So, and that's fine, because there's a lot of people that are incarcerated that probably won't ever work. But we're focused on those who want to, and those who have backgrounds that are not as scary as people think.
One last question for me, and then I'll let other people talk. I'm always taking all the conversation, I feel like, but so does the correction facilities work with you as far as the transitioning process and what to expect and what to look out for? Again, that's something that if you go into it blind and you don't know what triggers to look for or things like that, it's kind of hard to know. So do they work with you in that process?
That's a great question. So like in terms of partnering with the prisons on the work furlough, in like when you think about like easiest to most complex to implement, that's the most complex thing to implement. The
Okay.
easiest thing is to just say, look, we're willing to hire people with a history of incarceration, and you can just apply and we'll consider you. The setting up a program with the prison, actually, one thing I didn't mention is when they come on site from the prison, there's a correctional officer with them. And they have to check them every hour, put eyes on them, and there's a whole bunch of protocol that they have to do. They do have training for correctional officers that I have put my leaders and frontline supervisors through.
Okay.
It's a short few hour thing. The state's more than willing to help do that, because it helps protect, these kinds of programs and stuff. And yeah, it's all about, what to look for. And also, living in prison is a very traumatic environment. So there can be different things that you have to pay attention to in the sensory environment that you might not with somebody else that you employ.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I've had the same discussion with vets and vets that suffer with PTSD, and
Yeah.
The employers need to understand what to look for and what to be cognizant of, and what those indicators might be, and how to deal with those indicators, and just be smart about it, And a
Yeah.
lot of times, if we don't know, we just say no. It's easier to say no than ask the question.
The other thing I mentioned too, and like this might be a mistake on our part, but when you do background checks, we do them for 7 years. We don't go back to the life of whatever. I have found in some instances where we have employed people that were incarcerated, but it was well before the background check. And because the state of Connecticut, you can't ask that directly anymore. So when I did the roundtables, when we first started this, I was making that point often, that like you actually could be next to somebody who was previously incarcerated already. And we're doing our job by doing the background check, but we're not going back 40 years. We're not going back 25 years. And I don't know what other employers do, but we don't. So it's very possible that, somebody had a DUI, or whatever it might be, when they were, in their 20s, and now they're 50, and it's not showing up on a background check. Yeah, Sarah.
Okay. Hi, thank you for doing this, by the way. I had actually, when I got this email, had contacted York Prison, because I had been reading about you guys. And so I'd already contacted them. So someone I work with sent me this link to join this. So I was very excited. So you were talking about the correctional officers that check in once an hour. Are they off-site and they just come back every hour, or do they remain on-site?
No, the state puts them there. They're on-site, and they're also with them when they drive them to work.
And what are your shifts like? 8 hours, 12 hours, 10? How long are these women working? Or men?
Yeah, each site is different. The minimum is 9 hours.
Okay, all right. And then, so you said you pay them minimum wage because they're training.
When we're training them, yep.
When you're training them. Oh, so you don't pay them minimum wage the entire time they're employed there?
No, no.
Oh,
When we're done training them, we bring them to market with everybody else.
okay, and they
Some
get
of
full
them,
benefits? Oh,
they have full benefits from the time we employ them. So, and that includes everything, like insurance, disability, 401k. They have vacation time, which they don't normally like to take because it means they have to be back at the prison. And you know, we've also done deals with them where we've paid them out for it if they don't take it. So yeah, they are treated like everybody else.
okay, I love that. Okay. And then I may have missed this. I heard someone talking about a contract. Do you have to go into a contract with the prison or the state that you are employing the incarcerated individuals from?
No,
Or no? Okay.
we don't have a contract with them.
Okay, so you just kind of, you go and you meet with them, you set up a plan. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but there's not anything other than like setting up meetings and making it happen, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, so working directly with the prison, I think what they would look for is that there's enough of a sustainable opportunity that they would invest the time and resources in it, because they have to they have 2 officers because they have a union, and they have to share the overtime equally, and it's more than 8 hours, which means there's overtime. So they have to find a van and yada yada yada. So I think like I was saying before, in terms of complexity, that's probably the most complex, and you would have to be probably ready to like be prepared to offer an opportunity that's ongoing with enough people that it would make
Okay.
sense for them.
Okay.
The second thing is, though, is halfway house. We partner with CPA. CPA is running most of the halfway houses in the state. They're a nonprofit. And they have opportunities for people who are just released. And you can work with them to have a van, you know, of people brought to you every day, depending on what your situation is and how many people you need. If you're on a bus line, they can probably get to you, or some of them have cars, you know, when they get out. So that's another way to do it. And then, like I said, the third way, that's the most simple, is just saying, hey, we're open to hiring people. I've had a lot of people apply online and then reach out to me because they saw us in the news and they were incarcerated before, and now they're working at like a retail place making minimum wage, and they want to do something more meaningful than that and have a career. And so we've employed people just that way too, which is also a simple way to do it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
We do interview people. We interview everybody. When they're incarcerated, it's very rare that we won't accept them, because there's a very rigorous vetting process that the state does in order to get them ready. And they can ask questions and dig into things far more than we can as a private employer. So I trust that they're vetting those people. And so we interview them, but it's more of a training formality than an actual screening process. For people who are in halfway houses or out completely, we definitely interview them just like everybody else. And we don't necessarily hire them all. Financial incentives. So the main benefit, I guess there's 2 or 3. One is that I don't know about others, but we have a difficult time hiring into like second shift, which is like 3:30 to midnight, and third shift, which is like midnight till 6 a.m. People who are entry level or people who are previously incarcerated are willing to do those shifts. So that's one benefit, in that we otherwise won't have the talent there. So there's a benefit there. The other thing is we tend to attrit people, we tend to lose people at a higher rate, which costs us money because we have to train new people every time somebody leaves, that than people who are previously or currently incarcerated. Particularly if they're incarcerated, they show up every day. And there's not really an attendance issue, which we deal with sometimes with other people. Aside from that, the state doesn't, it's not like there's an incentive, like the state doesn't pay us to hire the people. It's more that you get the benefit of the loyalty, the attendance, the good attendance, and the investment that you're making longer term in training these individuals.
And Jacqueline, so the EAMA RSP, our partnership that we're preparing to launch with the Connecticut NAACP and their Million Jobs campaign, sort of the partnership is that NAACP will recruit the formerly incarcerated individuals or people who were never incarcerated but have justice system involvement that's impacting their employment. And then the folks who are interested in manufacturing, then we would have a pool of EAMA RSP employers who would be willing to consider those folks. So I know you sort of mentioned that as the least complex of the the options. Do you have I guess lessons that you guys have learned in that option that maybe you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think people, it depends on how big or like how big or small the company is, I guess, would be maybe your concerns, where your concerns would lie. But generally, we have had great success at developing and retaining people who apply just off the street, who have been previously incarcerated, who see it as a big opportunity to contribute to society and come into a career where they can learn and develop and continue to grow. And so I really, there's not like a lot of drawbacks in my mind. Socially, I think it's helpful to get people's concerns out and try to address them before engaging in a program like that. We did a lot of that. I even had like a state police officer come and walk some of our facilities and look for things that maybe could go wrong from employing somebody. Like, for example, if they decided to try to like traffic drugs, what would that look like? What would the risks be? Where would we take action to try to prevent that from happening? We haven't had anything like that happen, but we did do like risk assessment around that, and we made that visible to the employees so that they were aware. They didn't really have to worry about that. So I think getting out in front of people's concerns, particularly around safety, and not just like bringing them up, but addressing them, in whatever way that means. So I think that's one lesson learned. Sometimes there's been, I mentioned before, sometimes there's more obstacles to the individuals like getting to and from work because of transportation. They don't have a license. And so we've worked to try to partner with them, which, and to be candid, some of my HR managers say, like, I'm not a social worker. Like, why do I have to figure out how they get to and from work? Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way is that we are investing in them, to try to help provide continuity. I have found like where we've invested in transportation, like through a stipend or where we've given them access. The state does have like, what's it called? Uber cards that they offer for people who are underemployed. There's programs that they can apply for. And where we've done that, it's been short term and the employee has stayed and still works for us and has been particularly grateful that we partnered with them during a time that was very difficult for them. I am not aware of the work opportunity tax credit. That might be something, yeah, that might be something to look into. We don't pursue any of the tax credits, right now for Pursuit anyway. We pursue other things as Pursuit, but we don't pursue that. Anything else on people's?
This is Tony. Great presentation, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for talking with us. I have a question kind of related to planning. When you're obviously you have some work units which are very different. Like, for example, if you have a work unit inside, that's going to be, you have to really sort of think about the productivity and, scheduling and so forth, all that. But when you have, when you're just posting positions, except for that, you mentioned there was one where there's sort of, random drug screens and other requirements. So you took that out of the pool. All the other jobs, it's just, people are eligible like anyone else. It's not, you don't say, okay, we're setting aside, or these are 6 jobs that maybe we could give. It's just you're recruiting, and this is one of the pools you're recruiting from.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if they don't have any experience, then they're often going into entry-level roles. But I wouldn't assume that they don't have experience. I mean, I've employed, some of them do. So yeah, it depends, but often they're going into entry-level roles if they don't have experience. And we're investing in their training just like we would anybody else. I don't know if others are experiencing the same thing that we are, which is that, it's not like you can't find experienced people. So we're having to develop our workforce anyway, like regardless of whether they were incarcerated or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think segregating out, or separating out is a little bit of a danger from a liability standpoint. And, if they're applying off the street with a history of incarceration, obviously that's not something that everybody else would know. Like everyone else in the company, the hiring manager might know and the HR manager might know, but like, it's not necessarily that other people know who they are.
Okay, right. So the sort of cultural work you're doing, it's to change the consciousness or the attitude around having anybody incarcerated. Not like, oh, here's so and so, she's she just got out of prison. It's more, okay, just so we all know, this is part of our part of the way the company is.
Right, exactly. We're just making a statement. You could be working next to somebody who is previously incarcerated. Like, and we've done a lot of work to screen the person, to make sure they're prepared and whatever it might be, but you might be. Obviously, the people that show up every day from the prison, like everybody knows that they're incarcerated because they're showing up in a van. They're wearing regular clothes. They're not wearing, prison clothes, but people know. And then if they stay on and stay working for us, which most of the time they do, then people know that that's where they came from. And they're free to talk about it too. I mean, if like I said, if you Google, you'll see a bunch of them are very proud of the work that they're doing. So they're in the news, and so people know who they are. But yeah, it's more of a general, like, we're willing, people know that we're willing, and that's why they call us a second chance employer, which I know Michael mentioned at the beginning, I try not to say second chance because it assumes that the people had a first chance, and that's not actually the case. If you get to know some of the individuals like I have, you know, sometimes they're born into extreme poverty and violence. And so and it's not the case with everybody, but I tend to stay away from, but it's easy for people to call it second chance and it's a quick tagline. So it's fine. But, we try to stay away from that term only because, and also it assumes that somebody did a crime, which is also not always the case. But anyway, yeah, that's generally what we're trying to support culturally, is just like integrating. You can't really tell the difference. And the behaviors are that way, so you really can't tell the difference.
Mhm.
And Jacqueline, I guess for, maybe smaller companies or companies that are interested in kind of dipping their toe into this without, who maybe aren't able to do it at the level that Pursuit has been able to do it, do you have any, I guess from your perspective, any guidance, beyond, and, EAMA RSP, we're trying to provide support for those companies by doing things like this, but do you have any guidance maybe for a smaller company that wants to start, or, hiring a few people here or there?
That's exactly what I was going to ask too. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think Sarah, maybe you mentioned you reached out to York directly. I think reaching out to the prisons directly is a great way to start. York is particularly progressive because the warden, Trina Sexton, is the person who I worked with to start the men's program back in 2018. She was previously the warden of Willard Cybulski. Now she's the warden of York. You can actually reach out to them just online and see if they're if there's, mutual interest there. CPA, you can Google them and reach out to them directly. They're running the halfway houses. They have regularly scheduled like meetings where you can get on and give a presentation to their entire, like all their people that are running halfway houses, to say, here's a couple of work opportunities. We're willing to hire people who were previously incarcerated. Letting them know that is a big deal, because I can tell you that there's so much resource, particularly in the state of Connecticut, social workers, people that are trying to bridge from the halfway house to jobs, and they are exacerbated because they're up against a brick wall often, because employers won't hire their clients. So you would be like a glass of water in a desert if you went to them and said, or even if you had a couple slides or a flyer or an email, again, through CPA, and just said, we're willing to hire these individuals, please send them our way. And you can screen them from there, of course. But I've done that, and I can tell you, just after doing like 1 or 2 calls with people, I got flooded with applicants. And so that's just another way to do it. So yeah, reaching out to the prison, reaching out to CPA, somehow making, like, if it's on your website, or making it visible that you're willing to employ people who were incarcerated, then that may bring in other talent. And then there's Asnuntuck Community College. They have a manufacturing certificate program that's specifically targeted to people that were previously or currently incarcerated. And so reaching out to their career development office. I mean, I have people's names. I don't know if they want me to just throw their names and you get all these emails. But I think you can look up online Asnuntuck at career development office and reach out to them directly to find out if they have people graduating that are interested. And that's, I don't know if everybody on is manufacturing. Is that a fair assessment of everybody? Everybody's manufacturing, right? So it's helpful that they go through that certificate program because they get a foundation. And of course, it also vets them from an attendance standpoint. If they show up every day for class and they're willing to finish, then they're probably willing to show up for work every day.
And I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Asnantuck Community College.
Oh, okay.
They have a manufacturing certificate program that's specifically targeted in partnership with the prisons.
Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, the QVC program and Manchester Community College has one too. But so yeah, I think like the three places outreach is like sort of reaching out to community colleges, reaching out to CPA, and also the prisons. The other prisons are Willard, Cybulski, Robinson, Osborne. And again, when I started with Willard Cybulski, I literally went online and wrote them through I clicked a couple things and somehow it said contact us, and I wrote them and said I'm interested in partnering. So what you're doing, I think you mentioned, Sarah, what you're doing, that's exactly how we started a few years ago.
So I guess, hi, this is another Sarah. I just wanted to say, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. It really strikes a place in my heart. Years ago, my mother was the coordinator of this STRIDE program and helped build the program from the ground up. And it's so important. I think it builds a bridge from, human services to manufacturing that's not ever really there necessarily. And so I think it's fantastic what you're doing. And, the reason why I brought up the whole work opportunity tax credit is because, as a smaller employer here at Foster, I'm not going to be able to do these grandiose programs like you have with your, multiple state locations and all of that. But as a small employer in the Northeast Connecticut, I could support the same mission by simply hiring and saying yes to individuals that maybe had a felon in the past. And so I believe the work opportunity tax credit has an incentive for you to hire individuals who have been incarcerated. So
that's great.
I just wanted to mention that, as a plug for that program in the state of Connecticut as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we I don't know, we don't pay taxes on some that allows us to take credits, or we're over a certain size, so we weren't always that way, but we are now. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, that's helpful for everybody. Yeah, there are some smaller employers that have partnerships with the prison. Boatworks in South Windsor is right on Sullivan Ave. They have a work furlough program with the men's prison, and I think he gets like 6 to 8 men a day in that program. They've been doing that for years. So there are other smaller partnerships with the prison that have been successful.
We've got a few more minutes and want to allow for any other questions. I know from my perspective, this has been really terrific. Want to just make a plug. We're at the end. We will put up a QR code for a survey to get your feedback on this, and also to, again, gauge your interest at this point in participating in the EAMA RSP initiative, along with the Connecticut NAACP. They are currently, I think as of Monday, their Eastern Connecticut office in Norwich open. They're in the process of hiring staff. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll be connecting with actual staff, and they will be starting to do outreach and have a steady flow of individuals who are interested. So if you are interested, and that's going to be one of the questions on the little survey, we will follow up with a second survey along with the additional other companies that have already expressed interest, just to kind of dig into your level of interest, level of potential hiring, and where you would kind of like to plug into the process and start meeting the candidates. So, and Jacqueline, you guys are more than welcome as well to, you know, to tap into this pool that's hopefully coming through this partnership as well.
Cool.
And
So-
I just want to say again, thank you very much, Jacqueline. It's very informative. Always great to talk to you. And thanks to all the employers on the call. It's really heartening to see this great level of enthusiasm and interest and opportunity. I mean, like you say, it's really a great, smart business decision as well. So thanks to everybody.
All right. Any final questions before we put the survey up?
No, that's been great. Thank you.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much for having me. Thanks everybody for your interest in this. I hope that if you have any other questions, yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help in any way, help support and demystify it.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So I think we're going to put the survey QR code up and probably have the link in the chat as well. Thank you. Great. So it's very, very quick. Appreciate folks just filling that out before you sign off. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, thank you so much, Jacqueline. Appreciate it. Thank you, Tony, for arranging this, and Linda and Stephanie for making it go smoothly.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Michael, for all your leadership on this initiative.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.